Hi, I'm Hannah Hopkins. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm the dramaturg for CROPT.
Hi, my name is Nadia Noman. I'm the dramaturg for Being Julia Roberts. My pronouns are she, her, hers.
And I'm Jared Bellot. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm the dramaturg for Michael Jackson and the Devil's Book.
So we've brought some questions for each other tonight, and I'll go ahead and get started. I'll ask a fun one. So context for this question, and we talked about this some, I'm not a dramaturg. I play one on Zoom. In my other life, I'm a PhD student. This is really the first time I've done a project like this. And so my question for both of you is, how do you know that you're doing dramaturgy? How do you know? Like, what things do you do? Like, when do you really feel like you're doing dramaturgy?
You don't. I'm just kidding.
Are we kidding though? Like I was gonna say, when I start panicking and sweating profusely is when I know that I'm doing dramaturgy.
Okay.
That feels right.
I know what research feels like, right? Like it's part of my job to do that kind of research. And for many months now, I've been very concerned that I'm like not doing it right, or that there's like some secret, in the OA, they do that dance. Like there's a secret dramaturgy dance that I'm not doing correctly.
Wait, you didn't get the gift basket and the card?
Yeah, clearly not.
We'll stop the recording just really briefly. We'll teach you the dance. We'll come back. It'll all be good.
It's sick. Okay, great. No secret codes.
No, but it's true though, right? Because like I feel like even as someone who's dramaturged a couple of shows, it's hard because even people who are like, I'm using a dramaturg and like this is the dramaturg on this production, so many people have different definitions of what that means and different expectations for what that person is. So I like similarly, like jokes aside, like oftentimes do feel like deep imposter syndrome of like, oh my gosh, like am I doing this right? Am I doing enough? But I think the thing that is when I like pause and like breathe and like reflect on like, okay, Jared, like maybe calm down for a second and don't like assume the worst in this immediate and every scenario. Like I think I know I'm being a dramaturg or I'm dramaturging when there's just like an ease of conversation that can happen, I think, between playwright, director, other folks involved, and myself, and there's like a reciprocal back and forth that sort of casually exists, because it's not something, and I don't know, Nadia, if you agree or disagree, but I don't ever feel like it's something where I'm like, okay, here are the like 3 boxes that sort of my role as dramaturg is going to check on this production. It always feels much more ambiguous than that.
Yeah, I'll agree. I definitely agree with that. I didn't go to school for dramaturgy, and a lot of my practice, I guess, I learned from Abhi Shrestha, who's a dear friend, and their philosophy dramaturgy is like very pursue the truth of the play. What does this thing want to be? And so it's a lot less research based and a lot more conceptual, like the conceptually like trying to bring this thing to the form that it wants to live in. But there is also a lot of research involved. Yes, welcome to the Imposter Syndrome Club. Thank you so much for joining. I find that when I start asking questions that prompt the playwright and the director to sort of be like, what is the reason I'm hearing this? What is the reason I'm seeing this? Is this important? Is it not important? How are you pushing the audience to understand the story and the core of what you are trying to say with your work? When I'm asking questions like that, I finally feel like, oh yes, I'm trying to help you refine. It's like a geode, right? Like you've got a very rough exterior, but the more you cut away at it, you got a gem inside. Yes, welcome to the Nerd References. We are starting now.
And
but yeah, I find great joy in helping playwrights discover what they need in that process, and then being able to provide the support, because every dramaturgical process looks different. It really depends on who you're working with.
someone once said, and I cannot credit this person because I do not remember who it was, but someone once told me that they thought the role of the dramaturg was to like care for the soul of the play. And I was like, I like that because it feels like the role of dramaturg feels like very nurturing and like focused on growth and exploration. And I'm a Pisces and I love just exploring things and not having to like decide things or make like the hard. It's just like, let's ask questions and feel our feelings about our questions and feel our feelings about our feelings. And through that, like you are like finding new things. And that's really exciting.
I don't want to get too deep into like, this is not co-star, but I'm a Sagittarius and sort of like on the cusp of Sagittarius and Capricorn. And so I feel like I'm just like, answers, give me hard answers.
Ooh. Wait, Nadia, what is your...
No, I'm not participating.
Why not?
I don't know anything about this.
Oh my God. Can I ask sort of as a follow-up to that question, because I think it's kind of tied to it, but like, why dramaturgy, right? Like, why of all the things, like, is this what we've chosen? And also, like, tied to that, like, why this project, right? Like, why did you say yes when Jackalope reached out and was like, oh my gosh, we want you to work on these new plays. Here's a vague description of what this project will be. We don't know. COVID. Why did you say yes? And why do you continue saying yes to dramaturgy?
I can jump in and say that, well, one, Daria, the playwright of CROPT, approached me about this project a while back. She is a dear, dear friend. And so I've never said no to Daria when she said, you know, what do you want to do? I just, as an artist, I respect her work so much. I love her so much as a person. And to be a part of this project that for her kind of came out of a lot of different places, but some of it were conversations that we've been having for years together. It just felt so special to get to do this with a friend who I love so much and with a new group of friends who I love so much. So it was an easy yes in that regard, but why dramaturgy? You know, for me, I think I came into it with the sense that it was like applied research. And this is, I'm taking my skills and the things that I do for my PhD, which is, you know, my job that I do every day, and using them in a new way. And I think something that I'm learning now, and we're not done with this process, is that the types of questions and conversations that we're having here are informing my like nerd alone work outside of this space. And I feel much more connected to the questions I've been asking for a long time. I don't know how to describe it. It's like, it's all like I'm letting it change me. Like that's what I keep telling myself over and over again, and to be receptive and also responsive to the relationships and the questions that are happening in the room. It's been so special.
That's beautiful. How do you follow that up?
I don't know. It's so corny. It's so cheesy.
Isn't that our jobs? Like to be that? Have I been doing this wrong? Excellent. Let's see. Why? Well, I'll tell you why I said yes to this project. First of all, Abbas is a genius. And I love him so much. He's so smart and so so rawly talented and like has this brilliant, beautiful brain that just works constantly. And so there was no way I was going to be like, there is no universe in which I would say no to helping Abbas develop anything. And it's been such a gift to like get to develop something that feels very near and dear to my heart. I'm always invested in brown queer stories because, hello, welcome, hi. And I think that there's something really beautiful about being able to feel, in a very selfish way, connected to community during this time. And it felt like a very natural extension of how do I support my community? How do I foster a feeling of inclusiveness and a feeling of support? And it felt like a natural conclusion to be like, oh, I have this set of skills. I have this dear friend. And aside from us being friends, a brilliantly talented playwright. Of course, I am going to help foster that growth. And as to why dramaturgy, I'm a nerd. I like asking questions. Half my life is questions. So I like helping people find the questions that they want to answer. I like helping to offer guidance without offering without telling anybody where to go. Like it's exactly as you said, Jared. It's like a very nurturing, like, I want you to take what you want from me and throw away what's not useful. Yeah, love asking questions. And also, like, what a gift to be able to read 50 iterations of a play and see, like, hey, this worked really well, or like, that was an interesting choice, or why did you make that choice? Never, don't criticize. Only, offer helpful suggestions, questions in the form of questions. We're not going to get into the philosophy of dramaturgy in this moment because can I ask a question now?
Yes.
Great. I'm going to ask a question. All right. The question I have for y'all is this where I pause? Oh, God. Okay,
we're making, the making of a Dramaturgs podcast. Like, let us know in the comments how often we should release episodes. It'll be great. The technical difficulties we'll figure out.
Perfect. If you like it, subscribe. The question I have for you is, have you ever had a moment where you really felt so invested in a particular version of a script or a scene, but realized that for the sake of your playwright and for the sake of the work as a whole, you had to offer some suggestions or ask some questions that would absolutely change that? Have you ever felt that way, like a deep investment for something that you knew you had to let go of?
Yeah. I mean, well, yes and no, because like I try not to get too attached to the thing because I don't know, commitment issues probably and fear of being let down. No, but like I try not to get too attached in the process, but I think the thing about that question that like really does resonate for me that I like always do keep an eye out for is like, especially when you're on like a really tight-knit team. Like I get to work with Wardell Julius Clark and Terry Guest, and we like meet every week and just like make trouble for an hour at a time, and like have been so helpful for the process. But also like because of that, it's like super not insular in a negative way, but like there's like lots of like little like bits and throwbacks and like inside like rhythms that like for me I'm like, this is hilarious and like this is literally the best thing in the world. And like I often have to like pause because I often joke that like as a dramaturg my role is just like hype person. Like in like a 90s rap duo, I'm like the third person who just like comes out to hype up the crowd. So I get super excited by the plays and I'm like, this is the most brilliant thing. And I like oftentimes have to like step back and be like, wait a second, like, is this something that like exists outside of this moment right now? Because right, like when we're thinking about like developing these plays, which will like all go on to have these like long, beautiful lives and careers of their own. And we're going to be so proud of them as like their grandparent dramaturgs. Like I think it's important to like have that ability, which is hard, but to have the ability to like pause. But I think pausing is such an important part of dramaturgy and be like, okay, like, is this not just funny to me right now because I've been laughing about this for the last 5 minutes and actually it's not going to have sense or context for anyone else? And I think that's a really important and tricky thing. Because also we do so much like, and that's the other thing, we do so much like background like research and conversations. And so the thing that like ends up in the play is like that 10% tip of the iceberg. And sometimes I also have to like pause and ask myself, does this like part that's sticking out make sense without the like weeks and weeks of like Wikipedia spiraling and YouTube spiraling and internet spiraling? Not that I get I do not get all of my dramaturgy from Wikipedia, but like, you know what I mean? Like, does it make sense without that context and that like breadth of knowledge that like exists in support of that? And that's always like the navigation of creating something I think that like stands on its own or like has that support that it needs to survive and thrive.
Yeah, I would absolutely echo that. And I think the moments where I like stopped myself or kind of changed what I thought about it were parts of this play, of Dari's play, get really like technical really quickly. So I was like knee deep in some like hyper technical like manuals on how server farms work. And I was really in a place where I wanted to understand things at like such a granular level to be able to bring it back. And I had to like have a conversation with myself about like, okay, what is useful? Like what is really in service of the story? What is truthful without necessarily being like the most factual, you know, down to the bits and bytes and wires. And I think when I was able to kind of step back and free myself from that, we were able to have better conversations and think differently. Jared, I kind of wanted to ask you a follow-up question just because you didn't answer it earlier, but why this process? How did you say yes to this?
Oh yeah, I didn't. I was tricked into it. This was blackmail. And no, I mean, I think very similar to what you guys are saying. Like, I have worked with Wardell a couple times before, and we always have a really lovely time. We actually, way back when, 100 million years ago, when this pandemic thing began, we had a show that we had worked together that was up and running at Timeline called Kill Move Paradise. And so working with Wardell is really fun, and I was like, oh my gosh, of course. And Terry is someone who I had not worked with before and didn't know personally, but like knew of. And I was like, oh my God, like this is my chance. I think really dramaturgy for me is like, how do I become friends with people in a professional manner? And I was like, oh my gosh, this is my chance to like get in on that. And also because like when Kaiser asks you something, you know, artistic director Kaiser, like you don't, I'm like, Kaiser, whatever, yes. Like, don't even say no more. Like, yes. And I was excited by like the like with New Frontier series in particular, with like the freedom and like expansiveness of like what the project entails. I was like, oh my gosh, these could be anything. And that was really cool. And I'm not someone who's worked on a ton of new plays as a dramaturg. And I was like, this is a really exciting opportunity with two artists who I think are doing really cool work.
Did you have the sense looking at, I remember when we did the calendar, like after our very first meeting over the summer, looking at the calendar and kind of putting in where all the meetings were going to be months out and thinking, I have no idea what the world's going to look like. Like all I know is that we're going to be working on this project. Like this is kind of the farthest out I can see. And that's, you know, neither here nor there, but it is to say like, it's been so special to have this to come back to and to have these people to circle back with as things get increasingly unpredictable around us.
Yeah. And yeah, it's exciting to know that like come springtime, like there'll be like, it's a really nice anchor for all of this to be like, oh my gosh, like in this time when it's, I think, a really awesome privilege to be able to be creative and to like dedicate time to being creative. It's like so awesome to be like, oh my gosh, I'm working on a thing and I'm really proud of the thing. And the thing, y'all, I'm not gonna like, because I don't know if I can like spoil the thing, because I would be the person to like spoil the thing and then like Terry and Wardell get really mad at me because I'm not supposed to. But there was like, the process still excites me. Like there was a development 2 weeks ago in our meeting. It was our like first meeting back since our like rough draft reading. And we came back and there was a development that Terry named in the Zoom call. And I literally got up from my chair and ran around the room screaming out of excitement. And like, that's so cool that like when the world sucks for so many reasons, that there's something that like will bring me literally like back to like age 7 of like squealing around a room. So that's really cool.
Yeah. I want to know what it was.
Right? I'm like, excuse me, you can't do that.
Oh my gosh. Let's just say the play is evolving in really cool ways. It's mutating. Is that too soon with
No, it's fine. That feels appropriate and timely.
Oh no, it's really cool. It's really, really cool. And I'm excited for everyone to know soon.
Can't wait.
Yeah. I want to plus one, just something that you said that I was like, how dare I have not said this yet? Yeah, Kaiser has done such incredible things with the New Frontier series, and like, what an incredible gift to be able to workshop a process for like a year. Like, how beautiful to be able to spend so much time with the script and get actors at various points like that. I can't even imagine like the sheer joy that can come from being able to just try and try and try again with all of this space and expansive, like almost like a lack of boundaries to keep you from developing the way you want. And like, it just feels like such a gift for a playwright at any point in their career. So, and what a cool and inventive way to like deal with the fact that we're in a pandemic and we live our lives on Zoom and we never leave our houses. Just as a, so thanks, Kaiser. I love you. You're the greatest. That's basically what the point of that was.
Yes.
And the whole Jackalope team. Oh my God. Nothing would function without all of you. So you're all great.
That's incredible. Danielle, Mona, everyone.
Yes.
We love it. We love a supportive team.
And I think working with this team, I'm not in Chicago, I'm in Texas, so Central Time, but working with this team, I think, has taught me so much about doing Zoom collaborations effectively and what it's like to be generous and to show up for people. I had a death in my family kind of in the middle of the fall, right in the middle of a ton of CROPT stuff, and to have felt so like, I'm gonna get like emotional talking about, but like cared for by this team was an amazing thing to take back and say, oh, how can I apply this to all the other Zoom relationships I have? Because I know we all have a million.
Yeah. No, I totally feel that. I also had a death in the family, like I think a month or so ago, and it was just so like feeling very held by, again, like community and being able to have folks be like, yeah, I get it. Like, take your time. This process has a lot of flexibility, and also like, you're a human and please take care of yourself, and like all of this love and support coming through. So 100% plus one that. And then also just to offer, it's been really cool also to be able to interact with art in a very different way. Like, the blog has been really fun. I need to post another episode of What Did Nadia Learn Today? And by the way, it's wild. Thank you so much, Jared, for coining that name. Yeah, so it's been super fun. And like all of these, like, how lovely to get to sit and hear and chat with all of you and nerd out about all of this stuff. And like, I'm super excited to hear what the playwrights talked about. And like all of this, basically, I'm just very excited.
Oh my gosh, y'all, I got too excited. I got far too excited about the blog. And I was like, you need to stop. You need to stop. But no, it's true. It's cool because I think for me, and I think this also like goes back to that question of like, what is dramaturgy mean, and like why yes to this project and why dramaturgy, but also like this larger purpose of theater. To get corny again for a second, but this idea that for me, and people have different opinions, but my opinion's the right one, like theater is about creating community, like first and foremost, and like it creates community like through like this creation of lots of people playing make-believe and dress up, which is like a silly crazy thing, but like the reason like it continues and the reason it's like central to like humans is because it's a space and a place and a time to like build community. And I think like what the two of you just described, right, and like the same thing that I've experienced, like the opportunity and the time to create communities with these artists and these playwrights and like this company. And like, when I like was doing my blog post, I was like, I'm just gonna like talk to my friends about that, like, and that is so special and so cool, and that doesn't exist, I don't think, necessarily in other mediums. And like, what a cool thing to like literally be focused on like building that community through a work of art.
It's so interesting that you say that, because I was reflecting on this earlier this week actually, and I was like, it's so interesting to see how these relationships, despite being on Zoom, continue to deepen in a way that I feel like I haven't seen with any other projects that I've worked on. And I was like, I wonder if it's because we have an opportunity to be so wholly vulnerable with the way that we're thinking about things. And in exactly as you said, Jared, like it's about building community and a chance to play pretend and dress up, and that like, and the joy, the almost infantile like joy you get from being able to create this, coupled with these very deep questions. It's always asking, why are you telling this story? What's important about this? What is it that's driving you to put in endless hours of work into this thing that people may or may not like, but we know that we like it? Like it's such a beautiful juxtaposition of two extremes that might actually not be extremes and actually be the same thing, which is like a chance to so wholly put yourself and express yourself and create with other people who are in the exact same, in similar positions to where you are, to continue with the corniness. Just to round that out.
Oof. Oof.
So good.
Okay, so we we're like, oh my gosh, it's so awesome, it's so beautiful, tears, everything is perfect, we have transcended, and dramaturgy is the answer. Yes. My question. Tell me, oh my gosh, it's like a TikTok video. Like, tell me what a dramaturg is without telling me what a dramaturg is. No, tell me what, oh my gosh, the TikToks, Nadia, you don't know?
TikTok. If I had TikTok on my phone, I'd never look away. Besides, my roommate watches them incessantly, so it's fine.
A project of mine for 2021 is dramaturgical TikToks, and I feel like there's a very small niche, but like it'll happen. Okay, no, but my real question is, and here's where the title card comes up. What have been some of the biggest challenges to dramaturging these processes virtually? Right? Because like there are all these awesome things about it and these like beautiful pieces of community and coming together. But what has some of the challenges been of doing this process in a completely different way and in a completely like isolated way?
I can say a couple things. One of them is very personal to me, and then I think one of them is just kind of about context. But very personal to me, I've been friends with Daria Mieko Marinelli, who I think is one of the most brilliant artists I've ever met, for many years. And we've never like kind of worked on something together in this way. And it was really scary to like ask questions to my friend, like and receive emails from my friend with like draft materials. Does that make sense? Like it was a different dimension of that relationship that I didn't anticipate. It kind of at the same time that I was like, what is dramaturgy? Am I doing it? Are they going to find out that I'm bad? Like what? I don't know. It was a different dimension of a relationship that I didn't anticipate. And so I think that's been challenging, but not in a bad way, just in like a stretchy way, which is good. And then doing it, and I think doing this process and being a part of this process in this way, I feel like Zoom and kind of mediated communication, online communication, constant email notifications have taken a toll on my body in a way that I didn't understand. And I hope that it looks like maybe it's in the case for Nadia. And I've had to learn how to like be in a healthy relationship with email. And be in a healthy relationship with Zoom so that I can show up for my teams in ways that are useful and good and not draining and scary. And I've had to like check myself when I have feelings of dread leading up to a Zoom meeting, like, hey, how am I protecting myself so that I can enter the space with everything that it deserves? And I think that's an ongoing process, and it's one that I don't know that anybody has like figured out. Or if you have, hit me up with the gift basket because I would love to know.
Let us know in the comments below how to do that. Yeah.
No, and it's, you know, because you want to approach it with all the joy that you feel every time you're in a meeting with your team, every time you find something new. And I sometimes I find that like living my life through my laptop screen is just, it's unexpected challenges all the time.
Yeah, that's a yup. Yes. I think one of the challenges is absolutely, for me at least, was like Oh boy, my body has been very loud about like, hey, I don't like this, or hey, this really works, or like, can we just walk away for a minute and then we'll come back and that'll be fine. But I think there's been an interesting sort of realization that in other processes that I've dramaturged for, there's such a palpable moment of connection where you get to like sit down at the table with all of your people and be like, hey, guess what I learned, and like all of this stuff, or this could be so useful, or like, hey, did you know this, or like, oh, I found out something, look at this art, or all of these things. And there's a palpable energy that you get to feel when you're in a room with people who are as invested in the process as you are. And there's just something, it's just not the same over the internet, and there's like, and one of the biggest challenges that I have had is some of what I have researched has been really, really hard. I mean, it's heavy content and it was bringing up a lot of feelings because of the time period in which I was researching. And it was just, it's really hard to sort of process those feelings by yourself. Whereas I know that if I was in a room with folks and I like got to see them every week, there's an understanding of what that feeling is, because they've lived through similar experiences. And so sort of having to sort of not relive trauma, but sort of relive trauma because of what you're reading and how you're feeling, and piling on top of that, like, family stuff, or like the fact that we're in a pandemic, or a change in the political happenings in our country. It's a lot to process, and it always feels easier when your friends are right there to like not only share in the joy of working on a process, but also empathize with any of the information that you're bringing to the table. And also just like, I said it, like, I keep coming back to this word of like being held, like you're sometimes literally, who doesn't love a hug? Y'all, I want to hug everybody. And I'm not a big hugger, but I want a hug. Sorry, getting off topic. I lost my train of thought. Great.
We are pro hugs.
Being held.
Yes, being held. That's what. Yeah. Right. So, right. Thank you. The train is back. So researching all of this stuff is tricky. And then in addition to that, when earlier in the pandemic, there was this big thing about how are you being gentle with yourself? What are you doing to take, exactly as you said, how are you taking care of yourself while also maintaining your commitments, while also understanding that we are human beings living through a very hard global event without without the experience to understand what resources we need to be able to support ourselves and be able to like emotionally, physically, mentally care for all of each other. So it was a really interesting back and forth of, I really need to do this, but I do not have capacity to do it. How do I communicate my needs to my playwright? How does my playwright communicate their needs to me? And how do we find a balance for us to continue with this process in the way that we want, while also recognizing that we're human beings in a pandemic?
Just casually, a couple tiny things. Yeah. I think yes to all of that. Also, this is like a petty one, but also Wardell like knows more about Michael Jackson than anyone. So I was like, well, what am I doing here then, Wardell? Like, you focus on so I had to like, no, that was like part of the imposter syndrome. But I think, so right, like the like length of time is a blessing, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, we have all this time and space, but also, oh my gosh, we have all of this time and space. I'm not used to that. I'm used to like, I need to grind this out and finish it now. We have like 2 weeks from 3 weeks ago to finish this. Like everything's behind and like it's hard. It continues to be hard to like to relearn like better practices and better behaviors, and also still like hold ourselves accountable, because it's like, oh my gosh, we have all the time, but like let's like, yeah, finding like what that balance is to being a human and doing things.
Yeah. Listen, I had that same thought about a boss. Nobody knows more about Julia Roberts than a boss. And I was like, what?
I'm like, look, look, Terry Guest, and like, Terry, I hope you're watching this right now. Like, if you wanted Wardell to be your dramaturg, like, it could have just been Wardell. And no, it's been so lovely. But it's like, oh my, like, literally, I'm like, Terry would ask a question, and I'd be like, "That's a great question. Let me." And Wardell's like, "Actually, and the real question you want to think about is." And I'm like, "Okay, Wardell, we get it. He's like, by the way, have you seen this image that like no one's seen before? Like, I'm gonna send it to you because I have the original copy of. I'm like, such a jerk.
That's so cool.
I want to see your plays, both of you.
Yeah, can we just turn this into a let's watch each other's plays, please?
Yeah.
Because I want to see.
I was actually going to ask, and both of you, I feel I haven't like seen the plays obviously, but you're both working with plays that have these like kind of cultural icons that are very much involved. Julia Roberts, Michael Jackson. What have been the challenges dealing with or working with this story with these two figures that, whether it's people on your project team or people coming to see, would kind of have such a clear picture of who these people are?
Yeah. I was like, let me.
That's a good question, but I just like think about these two figures. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
So cool.
Well, I think the thing that was the trickiest thing, and like part of like recognizing this was when we unlocked the play, was the play Michael Jackson, The Devil's Book is not actually about Michael Jackson. Like, it is about Michael Jackson, but, and like Terry said this like literally in one of our first conversations, but it like took us a little while. I would say it really took us until the reading in December to like understand what we meant by that, even though it's something we knew. Was like, the play is not trying to be like, this is the life and history of Michael Jackson, born in Gary, Indiana, and like, this is the historical like retelling of his life. And what it actually is looking at the impact of Michael Jackson, which is like, you say that and it's like, oh yeah, that's like a really simple thing. Like, but it was like, it like clicked, and it was one of those aha moments of like, oh my gosh, actually, like, we have a lot of like leeway to play around with historical accuracy, but really like historical accuracy on like a Showtime show, right? Where it's like, it's like, yes, these are historical figures, and yes, this is like kind of the trajectory of their life. This is the trajectory of their lives, but we're making it like sexy and modern, like, right? It was like one of those kinds of things where it was like, when we realized that and we allowed ourselves a little bit of like freedom from like the historical burden of like the icon, because we have Michael Jackson, we have Diana Ross. In the new evolution of the play, we have some new famous icons. Oh my gosh, who knows? I'm like, I have to build up the tension. It's marketing, branding. Wardell taught me anything. But when we freed ourselves from like telling their stories, we're like, oh, we're actually telling the story of all of these people who are impacted by them. So that was like a really like challenging like moment to get to, but in a really good way. And it like, I think has made the play so much stronger, having that like freedom from needing to say like, well, this is the conversation, and this is the exact transcript of what happened, and this is the exact way these people behaved. It allows us, we talked about, it was like a little bit of like Chicago style, like it got really like absurdist, and that was really fun to like recognize in dealing with the history.
Yeah, that is actually really similar to what I am going to say, which is that interestingly enough, being Julia Roberts is not about Julia Roberts. And I think as we started to recognize like, what is the importance of this figure? What is she providing for us? What is she providing for the characters? Why her? It sort of gave us the freedom to be like, what do we need? how much of this is important to, again, to serving the script and serving the story, and how much, despite how much we love it, you gotta let it go. Yeah, it's been really interesting to figure out how to navigate that and figure out what are the key pieces of information that feel most important, and what are the pieces of information that are actually hindering your audience from understanding what this story wants to be.
That is, that's so interesting. And thank you both for those responses. I've just been so curious. That's like exactly how I feel about the sort of like data center server farm, very technical aspect of the CROPT story, right? Is like how much is in service and how much is just like stuff that's going to get in the way. It's like not about this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it's my turn. And the question I will ask is, okay, the question I will ask is, how has your relationship to dramaturgy changed based on not only doing all of this mostly online, but also having an opportunity to flex your muscles and share your content on a blog and have conversations like this, and also like get to interact with the folks watching in a very different way?
Mm-hmm. Do you want to go first, Hannah?
I can. Well, talking about flexing muscles, I'm getting muscles. I had no muscles to begin with. And I feel like, you know, we talk about blogs, I'm like, am I behind on blog posts? Yes. But it's been such a cool process to do this together. I think my relationship to dramaturgy is changing because I feel like there are spaces and places and opportunities where people with varying kinds of backgrounds can jump in and be a part, right? Like it's like a less maybe like mystical, scary world than I thought it was. Not scary, you know what I mean, right? Like it's a little bit less. It feels like something I would love to do again. It feels like this is a world that wants to talk back to the types of like research and scholarly communities that I'm in, and this is just a cool synergistic thing. But yeah, as far as like our dramaturgy muscles, I felt so green this whole time. So I don't know.
Well, and you put together that really cool panel, right? Like, come on, you're not green. You got it.
We had a good panel discussion for which the audio did not work. So it was a panel discussion for the people in the room. But yeah, that was a cool moment. So doing stuff like that has been so exciting and so fun, and I feel so honored to get to be in this community, learning from the both of you, and Kaiser and everyone in the Jackalope team. I feel so lucky.
Yeah, same. I think, I mean, I'm just getting to live out my dreams of being like a talk show host, social media influencer. Like, oh my gosh, getting to take over the Jackalope Instagram, highlight of my life, like, without a doubt. But I think, like, for me, like, my dramaturgy is really messy. Like, I liken my dramaturgy to, like, I throw a bunch of pasta at the wall, most of it will fall, but some of it will stick, and what sticks will stick. And like just getting to like live in that chaos element of it is really exciting because it just gets to be so expansive. And like like I've always sort of tended to go more digital with my dramaturgy, but like it's been so exciting to like just embrace that even more, and just like literal like just a chaos of question and information has been so exciting, and I think for me has helped me grow a lot and like flex a lot of those muscles that like it's just a new opportunity to just like immerse yourself fully. And also most importantly though, the social media takeover.
Wait a minute, actually, speaking of that, I'm so sorry, Hannah, go ahead.
Oh, I was literally just gonna say like my Instagram is a better place now that Jared is in it. Like,
oh my gosh, Hannah, stop.
Listen, I was in awe of that takeover, and I have two questions. Number one, how many hats do you own? And number two, talk to me about why it's always spaghetti at the wall. Like, why spaghetti? Why not something else?
Yeah, well, my mom's Italian, so that's probably why spaghetti. That's sort of, you know, a nod to my Italian heritage. And spaghetti, wet spaghetti, some of it will stick, some of it won't. Like paint, it all sticks, right? But spaghetti, it won't. And also food. Communities love food. We build community off of food. I own a lot. So here's the thing about hats, just to say, I'm not a hat person, but because of the pandemic, I like don't get haircuts. So I've started buying a lot of hats, and that's why I have a lot of hats now. The question really though, Nadia, is not how many hats you own. The question is how many hats did I like bring? Because I was like staying with family to help with family for like a couple months. So how many hats did I drive cross country with? Too many. Too many.
No.
If you want to check out some of my hats, follow me on social media.
You will not regret it.
Okay, that is one thing that I am so sad about, is the fact that everybody on our team is a great chef in some way. I was like, if we were in the rooms together, you don't even know what our snack tables would look like. Like, you don't even know. Oh man, if you have had any of a boss's cooking or baking or anythinging, wow.
Well, and Wardell brings like Popeyes to first rehearsal. Like,
oh my god!
I miss more than anything dinners at Daria's apartment. Like, this is my
I
dream.
love Daria because I went to undergrad with Daria, and so the first play I did in college was one of Daria's plays, and I'm on her website, and I'm really proud of that.
When I saw, go ahead.
You go ahead.
No, I've interrupted you like 15 times in 5 minutes.
No, I'm pretty sure what I did was like ask 19 questions. I was going to say, Daria and I got to be friends a million years ago because we were seeing the same doctor at the same time. And like my husband was in classes with Daria. So he was like, oh, I think like you guys should connect on this issue. And I don't know where I was going with that story other than like what a gift in my life made by a doctor scheduling system.
Thank you, doctors.
Ooh. I was gonna say, when I saw Daria's name on the announcement, I was like, oh my god, I know that person, because I got to be a stage manager for one of her plays during the, I'm gonna get the acronym wrong, the Kata Festival at Victory Gardens, God knows how many years ago, and I was like, this play is so cool. Oh my god, who is this playwright? I'm obsessed. Wow. So I was just very excited.
The moral of the story is, right, like as we wrap it up, our playwrights are super dope. The plays they're writing are super dope. Check out our blog.
And Jared's Instagram.
Correct.
Jared's Instagram.
Most important takeaway here. Jared's Instagram.
It's just Jared's Instagram and we're all living on it.
Yeah.
Like,
my handle is @JaredDoesn't-have IG. I look forward to your follows.
So cool. Nadia, how can the people keep in touch with you?
Oh, I also have an Instagram. It's called @NodstersWorld. Or check out our blog and watch What Did Nadia Learn Today? And by the way, it's wild. We have a theme song that I forced my roommate to sing. It's very good.
How about you, Hannah? Where can we follow you?
Oh, all over. I think I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Han, HANHOPK, Han Hop. My friends call me Han. You can call me Han too.
Oh, you hop?
Friend, yes. Why are we doing this already? And yeah, the Jackalope blog is where the fun stuff is. As I've said, I know I'm behind on posts, so catch me there soon. It's been so much fun to get to share that space with y'all and to share this space with everyone tonight. What a joy. Made my whole week.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and dealing with our nerdiness and existentialism.
Speaking of which, would someone like to offer a haiku to close us out?
Oh, gosh. Dramaturgy rocks.
We are dramaturgs on Zoom.
What a gift this is.
Boom. Take that, playwrights.
I feel like we don't even know what their haikus were because it's going to air later. Oh, I'm so excited.
This is exciting.
All right.
Thank you, everyone, for sticking around with us.
We love you so much.
Bye.
Bye.